Webinar. Welcome to the City of Chicago Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection Free Business Education webinar. This webinar is being recorded and will be available at youtube.com/Chicago BACP. There will be a Q&A session at the end of this presentation. All BACP webinars are part of the BACP Entrepreneur Certificate Program, which is a free program for anyone interested in starting or growing a business here in Chicago. Achieving your certificate is easy as 1, 2, 3. Register, attend, and graduate. Graduating from the program makes you eligible to apply for a loan with our partners at CIBC Bank, and new to the program, earn college credit with City Colleges of Chicago. For more program details, please visit chicago.gov/BACP certificate. Before we continue, I want to inform you that BACP has announced its remote small business expo, which is scheduled to be held on Thursday, March 12th at 9:30 a.m. via Zoom. To learn more and to register, please visit chicago.gov/biz expo. That's BIZ Expo. And at this time, I will now turn this webinar over to our presenters for us to begin.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Scam Proof, Outsmart Fraudsters, and Stay Safe. My name is Marianne Rigger. I am an attorney with the Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection, and I prosecute consumer fraud complaints that are made to the City of Chicago. I have been a fraud prosecutor for about 9.5 years. I estimate that I have prosecuted thousands of these types of complaints. And while unfortunately the work really never ends, having done this for so long has given me kind of the bird's eye view of what scams we're seeing in the city of Chicago, how people are taken advantage of, kind of the anatomy of a scam, if you will. And so I put this webinar together to share with everyone so that you can learn what the popular scams are in the city of Chicago and how not to become a victim of one of the scams and how to outsmart scammers and stay safe. So first, a little bit about the department in general. BACP is an interesting department because we both license and we regulate businesses. So on the licensing arm, we have the Small Business Center that works with businesses to figure out what type of license they need and can help answer questions about the process and how to navigate that. And we also have our outreach team that does different educational trainings and puts hosts of the webinars in touch with businesses to help those businesses learn things like how to optimize social media, how to figure out your taxes. We also do trainings with investigators on how to avoid being cited for violations of the municipal code. And then on the kind of regulation side is where my consumer fraud team fits in. And so on this regulation arm, we have teams of investigators that take complaints and will review those complaints to determine whether there's violations of the city's municipal code. The municipal code is basically just the list of rules that the city of Chicago has for businesses. So in addition to consumer fraud, the department also regulates labor laws, public vehicles like taxis, Ubers. We regulate restaurants, tobacco licensees, liquor licensees, public place of amusement licensees. So there's a really broad range of types of businesses that we do regulate. So like I said, I'm part of this consumer fraud team. And so our job is to take consumer-led complaints. So anytime someone is wronged by a business in the city of Chicago, they can call 311. We determine whether we have authority and jurisdiction. So as long as the harm occurred in the city of Chicago, meaning the person lives in Chicago or the business is based in the city of Chicago, um, then we would have the jurisdiction. As far as authority, we have a pretty broad range of types of cases that we are allowed to investigate. There's certain types of complaints that come in where the state regulates those businesses. It's a lot of professional services, things like doctors, accountants, lawyers, etc., where the city of Chicago can't take those complaints, but we can always make a referral to the proper agency. So once a complaint comes in, it gets triaged by our team to make sure that we do have the ability to proceed with the complaint, that it's within the city of Chicago and it's a case type that we can handle. And then it gets assigned to an investigator. The investigator will look at the documents that were submitted and uh, contracts, proof of payment, emails, text messages. They'll reach out to the business side as well to get their side of the story. And from there, they'll determine whether or not there were violations of the municipal code. Um, this is important because it helps to keep a level playing field. We want good businesses to thrive in the city of Chicago. And so when you have a bad business that's taking shortcuts and is defrauding people, then it doesn't just harm that consumers, it harms every business that is uh, going through the steps of doing things properly, that isn't taking advantage of people and is operating the way that a business should. So from January to December 2025, we had over 460 cases that were brought to judgment. So that's not just complaints made or cases filed where things are pending. That's 460 businesses, 460 victims where judgment was entered against those businesses. We entered judgments of over $4.7 million in fines that are payable to the city of Chicago, and then over $270,000 of restitution on behalf of complainants. Restitution, aka a refund. We'll talk a little bit more about it, but one component of our consumer fraud cases is that we do have the ability to seek fines for violations of the municipal code, but then this restitution or refunds on behalf of a complainant. So we're able to seek restitution or a refund in certain cases where we find that there's a violation of consumer fraud. So we have this kind of legal technical definition here. Consumer fraud is the use of deception, false promise, misrepresentation, concealment, omission of a material fact with the intent that the consumer rely on the deception or misrepresentation during the course of business. Great. What's it mean? When you hear consumer fraud, odometer tampering is kind of the classic example of consumer fraud. When someone goes to buy a used vehicle, what are the things that they rely on in making their decision of whether or not to buy a car? The make, the model, the year, the overall condition of the car, how many miles it has. So if a business engages in odometer tampering and takes this vehicle that really has 2,000, rolls that odometer back to 50,000, a customer is going to come in, see the 50,000, and their decision to purchase that vehicle is based on that 50,000, but that 50,000 is a deception, that's fraud. And so the business is hoping that the victim is relying on that 50,000 number to purchase that vehicle. So this is kind of the classic definition of consumer fraud. In the city of Chicago, a consumer can be an individual or a business. And so the city of Chicago does invite both individuals or businesses to submit consumer fraud complaints. Consumer fraud is not mere dissatisfaction with a service or product. So something where there's a quality of work issue, like with home repair, you don't like the way something was done, doesn't rise to the level of consumer fraud. A misunderstanding between the customer and the business. So if you have maybe a vague contract and you think that you're supposed to be getting one thing, the business provides another, but the contract doesn't really lay out the terms as well as it should. That does not rise to the level of consumer fraud and breach of contract. None of those rise to the level of consumer fraud. And again, the reason that's important is because when we are determining whether we can seek a refund for somebody, uh, the way that the municipal code is written, uh, the law states that in order for us to be able to seek that refund, we have to have a finding of consumer fraud. So if we don't, then we may not be able to seek a refund, but we still regulate businesses. And so we can verify compliance with the municipal code. So um, this is kind of a look at our process. If anyone here has any concerns that they've been defrauded by a business, you don't need to worry about whether the city has authority, whether we have jurisdiction, whether we can seek a refund. File your complaint. We'll review. We'll do everything that we can to be able to try to seek a refund if we're able to. And if we're not the proper department or government agency to be able to accept the complaint, then we're always happy to make a referral and let you know what agency, maybe state, maybe federal, is suited to handle your complaint. So always kind of err on the side of making the complaint versus sitting there and wondering, I wonder whether this is something the city can handle. We do regulate a wide range of businesses. This is a list of some of the complaint types that the city of Chicago sees. Complaints against the first few are kind of the bread and butter of the consumer fraud court call. So, home repair, motor vehicle repair shops, immigration service providers, shared housing like Airbnb, um, income tax preparers, hotels. Rogue towing is another big one that we'll talk about more specifically. So some of the limitations on the consumer fraud team, we don't represent a single person or business. So when you as an individual file a private lawsuit, you have the ability to direct the litigation. You decide who to file the complaint against, what you're going to seek in terms of a remedy. You make decisions on kind of the timeline and the claims that you're making. When you file a complaint with the city of Chicago, you are not a party to the case. It's the city of Chicago versus the bad business. And so we can seek restitution in certain cases or a refund in certain cases, but like I said, you're not a party to the case. We're not able to mediate a complaint between private parties, so we can't kind of engage in a back and forth to help a consumer and a business come to an agreement on whatever is happening between them. We can't take possession of checks or payment or any kind of physical item on behalf of a complainant. In some certain complaint types, uh, an item isn't delivered. I had a case where there was a quinceanera dress that a business was supposed to make and then give to the individual. The business wanted us to take the dress and then arrange delivery to the complainant. Unfortunately, that's not something that we're able to do. So the way that our restitution works when we're able to seek that is that the business pays the money as part of the judgment, and then the city of Chicago disperses the check. But it's a payment that's done kind of through the city of Chicago Department of Finance. It's not BACP handling a check that's written out to an individual. And then finally, investigators are not expert witnesses. Where this comes into play is for our home repair cases and for our motor vehicle repair cases, there's sometimes some really technical complaints that are going on. Our investigators are not engineers, they're not architects, they're not mechanics. Certain types of claims require an expert testimony to be able to establish. And so this is why we're not able to seek restitution in every case. So if someone files a complaint against a motor vehicle repair company saying that they caused damage when they were supposed to be working on one part of the car and then another part of the car got damaged, we don't have an expert witness that can come in and look at the vehicle and say, oh yeah, this is how the vehicle was damaged. This is what they were supposed to do, and they didn't do it. Our investigators look into such a wide range of different complaint types, and like I said, they're not certified mechanics or contractors that can testify to things that require that kind of technical expertise. And so there are situations where it may make sense for individuals to both file a complaint with BACP and to consider speaking with a private attorney on how best to protect your rights. The most frequent complaints that we see within BACP are rogue towing, home repair, motor vehicle repair, used vehicle purchases, private booting, IRS fraud, and the sale of commercial goods. So we'll talk about the most popular ones more specifically. Before we get into the specifics of those complaint types, we'll talk generally about why we fall for scams and some general tips to kind of stay ahead of these fraudsters. Um, First, scammers tend to present really exciting offers. When things sound too good to be true, they usually are. If someone indicates that you have to act immediately in order to avoid being penalized in some way, they're hoping that you'll act before you have the chance to think and realize how suspect what they're saying really is. So, um, they tell you to act quickly, and what they're asking you to do can sometimes sound really, really enticing. Next, they tend to prey on politeness. You think of, the scammer, uh, they're a fraudster and a terrible person. You think that they're not going to be very nice, but it's the opposite. They will try to befriend you. They'll compliment you and try to build a relationship with you so that they can take advantage of your politeness. People have a hard time hanging up on someone, closing the door in someone's face, but that gives scammers an opportunity because the longer that they can get you to sit there and listen to them, the more opportunity they have to convince you to do what they want you to do. Next, they tend to present themselves as an authority, telling you that they have expert knowledge, that they've been in the business, that they know what they're doing, particularly with things that where there's a really big knowledge gap between the average consumer and the average individual working in that field. So something like home repair, um, you may not have any idea about, a water heater. And if a scammer comes and tells you that you need a new whatever, uh, it, you know, you kind of have to trust them because we're not experts in all of the things that we need to live our daily lives. So when a scammer is presenting themselves as an authority and reassuring you about what you need to have done, um, it's easy to be persuaded by that. I remember when I first bought my house, I had uh, like a a sewer backup, and a business came in and started quoting like $30,000 worth of work and wanted me to immediately sign a contract. And in that moment, you're just so distressed and shocked. And luckily, I remembered my work and consumer fraud and said, let me sleep on it. Let me get a couple more quotes on what you're telling me. And, it was just a really simple clog. And I definitely didn't need $30,000 worth of work to completely redo my basement. So finally, last point, they prey on everybody. Half of all victims have a college degree. They prey on older people. They prey on younger people. Everyone thinks that uh, they aren't going to fall victim, but everyone should really stay alert because there's always new and creative ways for scammers to take advantage of people, and everyone is susceptible. So, some general tips to outsmart scammers, outsmart fraudsters. Number one is to do your research before doing business with a company. Number one is going to be just to get recommendation from friends and family. Nothing really beats that personal connection. Check online review websites, but keep in mind that reviews can also be basically bought from the companies that publish them. But if you look at something like Better Business Bureau and Google reviews and Yelp, and across the board, someone has good reviews versus reviews that are kind of warning people to watch out, that is, I think, worth something. BACP maintains a bunch of resources as well at the link that is provided. And this webinar will be available after the fact so that any links that you see in here, you'll be able to see and go back to. But at that link, we have lists of licensed businesses, businesses with active business licenses, lists of general contractors, and then lists of businesses and individuals that are found liable for consumer fraud within the last 3 years. And so if you're thinking about taking your car to some body shop, you can go click on that, make sure they have an active business license, and see if they're on that bad actor list to see whether or not they've been found liable for consumer fraud. And then finally, if the business is a corporation, if they advertise themselves as like Company Inc., make sure that they actually have an active incorporation within the city, or within the state of Illinois. And you can do that by going to the Secretary of State website, make sure they're active and in good standing. A lot of scam companies will use Inc. and LLC to look like they're legitimate businesses when really they aren't. Tips to stop a scam before it starts would be to make sure that any agreements are in writing and make sure that that contract that is written up actually depicts the agreement that you came to with the company. So just read through, take a minute before you sign anything, and make sure that whatever you think that business has agreed to in writing, that it's actually, or verbally, that it's actually in writing. And then any changes to a contract should also be evidenced in writing and signed by both parties. Always get a second opinion. Be wary of businesses that demand cash because the payments can't be traced, and they also can't be reversed. If you are able to use a credit card, chargeback may be possible if they never provide services. And finally, keep all your paperwork, receipts, contracts, invoices, estimates that show what was paid, your proof of payment. All of these things are valuable evidence if you do need to file a complaint with our department. So we'll get into the specific businesses now that, the most popular complaints that we see. So the first one that we're going to talk about is rogue towing. Rogue towing is when you are in a car accident and a tow truck shows up to tow your vehicle. And they'll have a tow disclosure for you to sign. Sometimes they'll say that they were called by police or your insurance or roadside companies, but really they find out about accidents by listening to police scanners and racing to these accident scenes. They um, have been known to like drive really recklessly to try to be the first one there. Um, and then once they get there, they'll leave blank spaces on that tow disclosure form where they're supposed to input. Um, oh boy, sorry. So they're supposed to input what the price is going to be for the towing part, the storage part, cleanup fees, etc. So then maybe they'll put in like $150 for the cleanup, but they'll leave everything else blank, including the total. And then later, after you sign it, they'll go in and add sometimes thousands of dollars worth of fees that now it looks like you've signed that. So ways to avoid being scammed by a rogue tower. First, never ever accept an unsolicited tow. Always call for your own tow truck. If they do claim that they were sent by your insurance, call your insurance company and ask if they sent that company, the company name, and uh, Illinois Commerce Commission, as well as City of Chicago transportation numbers are required to be on the side of the truck, along with the name of the business. So check the side, take a photo of the side of the tow truck for your reference, and independently reach out to whatever entity they may have said sent them to verify. Um, and then never sign a tow authorization with blank spaces because scammers have been known to go back and then add in thousands of dollars worth of fees to get you or your insurance to pay this absolutely insane amount for a tow. All right, next is home repair. This is maybe the number one type of complaint that BACP has seen over the past 10 years. Rogue towing came in kind of fast and furious. There's definitely a lot, and it's really hot right now. But home repair, I think, has kind of this long-standing tradition of being number one. So, how you can tell whether a contractor is a scammer or not. They'll make unsolicited contact, especially after a fire or a storm. They may come to your door and knock and say that they have leftover materials from a different project. If a business doesn't have a GC license or a home repair license, or they can't show you their liability insurance, that's going to be a red flag. If they demand a full payment in advance, that could be a red flag. Requesting a cash only payment or asks you to pay an individual versus their business, those are red flags. If their contracts or estimates are very generic, uh, different big box stores have kind of templates that anyone can purchase. So kind of be on a lookout for that. If they don't have their own, letterhead, maybe they're not a legitimate business. If their price quote is well below the estimates from other companies that you've received, it may be trying to induce you to pay them, and then you may never see them again. And then the state of Illinois has required documents for consumer rights documents that are required to be given by a contractor to a homeowner. So if they don't give you a copy of the consumer rights brochure, that's a red flag. They don't give you a 3-day right of rescission, that's a red flag. In the state of Illinois, when a contract is signed at someone's house, you have 3 days to be able to rescind that contract. And the business that is giving the contract to you, tendering the contract, they have to provide you a form that notifies you of the right of the 3-day right of rescission. So again, that's for any time a contract is signed at somebody's home. It is, I think, more than $25. The consumer rights brochure is a home repair document. It has a portion that the homeowner signs and the contractor signs. The contractor is then required to cut out this part of the brochure and keep it for a period of 5 years. So if they don't give you the consumer rights brochure and have you sign, that's also a red flag. Um, if you hire a scammer in the realm of home repair, what may happen is they can take off with your money and never finish the work. Work that they did do may be shoddy or not up to code, and no permits may be pulled when it was required, and that leaves a homeowner open to liability. If a case is, if the city of Chicago finds that work is unsafe, work that was done is unsafe, the homeowner is responsible for making sure that their property is up to code so that nobody gets hurt, and the liability is on the homeowner. Ways to make sure that you're not defrauded by a home repair contractor would be to vet prospective contractors, use those resources that we talked about in the beginning. Businesses found liable of consumer fraud, make sure that they're licensed, ask to see their liability insurance, try to pay by credit card or check, and pay in increments when certain work is completed, and then make sure that anything you sign reflects your actual verbal agreement that you came to with the business. Next thing we'll talk about is motor vehicle repair shops. This is an industry where there's such a gap of knowledge between the average mechanic and the average vehicle owner, where that lack of knowledge is easy to take advantage of. It's easy for a mechanic to say that you need a certain part, and for the customer to just have to trust that because we don't know better. So the city of Chicago very specifically regulates motor vehicle repair shops, and we have rules of information that is required to be provided by the body shop. And our goal is to kind of bridge that gap of knowledge so that consumers are not quite as easy to take advantage of. So information that you're entitled to when you have to bring your vehicle into a repair shop. Your estimate invoice contract should have all of the following information: your name, contact info, your car, year, make, model, odometer, in and out. You also have some consumer rights when it comes to directing what will happen in certain scenarios with the motor vehicle repair shop. So you have the right to decide yes or no whether or not you want to inspect parts that the shop replaced, and that is required to be on the initial estimate. So you can either check, yes, if you replace this part, I want to see the old part so that I know that it was actually replaced. Next, you have the right to know whether the work is guaranteed by warranty or not. A shop is not required to provide a warranty. However, they do have to tell you whether or not it is warranted. And next, you have the right to determine what happens if the work that they initially quoted is if the actual cost to repair is going to exceed that initial estimate by either $15 or 10%, whichever is less. So if they are going to if the cost of repair is going to be in excess of that amount, you can decide whether you want either another estimate in writing, whether you want to authorize repairs up to a certain amount, or whether if it's a long-standing shop that you've been doing business with for a long time, then you can choose to allow a shop to do whatever repairs no matter what the costs are. Well, no matter what the cost is, excuse me. The next area that we're going to talk about are airport hustlers. So this is when you're at O'Hare or Midway and you're standing in baggage claim, or maybe you're just outside the terminals, and a driver approaches you asking if you need a ride. This is very strictly prohibited in the city of Chicago. All taxi drivers that are licensed in the city of Chicago know that they're not allowed to approach people to ask them if they need a ride. But they do it anyway. We have CPD there that impounds the vehicles and tickets the vehicles. So it's something that we are kind of always issuing enforcement for and impounding cars. So be on the lookout for that. If you do end up taking a ride from one of these airport hustlers, they may charge you fees in excess of what the city of Chicago allows. The city has certain amounts of, they either have to run a meter or they can charge a flat rate in certain scenarios. But if you hire an airport hustler, they may charge you a lot more than what is allowed in the city of Chicago. And we've also seen instances where someone's luggage is taken hostage, meaning they'll put your luggage in the trunk and then drive you to a bank and demand a certain amount of money. Otherwise, they'll just take off with your luggage. So ways to avoid falling prey to an airport hustler is just to use the taxi stands, or if you're taking Uber or Lyft or rideshare, make sure that make sure that they're getting you from the designated areas. They exist at both O'Hare and Midway, and so make sure that you get your ride from that location and always compare the license plate to what's actually in your app. Next, we see mail and parcel delivery scams. This is when a scammer will pose as USPS, UPS, or FedEx and claim that you either missed a delivery or you need to pick a delivery time or date or location, or that you have to pay for a package to be delivered. We've seen them come in the forms of email, texts, or phone calls. What these scammers are trying to get at is either your personal information or to get you to make a payment for delivery. So don't click any links. We have an example photo in the slide, and it has this bogus link where it would ask you to input certain personal information. So if you ever have questions on whether or not some contact that was made or message was sent, if you question the authenticity, go to the business's website, find a customer service number, and directly call that number and just inquire about whatever it is the message is asking you to do. Don't directly call the number from this unsolicited text. Numbers can be spoofed. Text messages, emails can look like it is actually that business contacting you. So make sure that when you do reach out directly to a business that you're dialing the number that you're finding on the website as opposed to just returning a call or replying to an email, because then you'd be directly replying to a scammer. Ways to avoid being defrauded in this type of scam. make sure, just verify, did I send a package to someone or am I expecting a delivery? A lot of times these types of messages and emails are sent during the holidays when a lot of people are doing shopping. Um, but it is illegal for or unlawful for a company to text you unless you opted in to receive those kinds of updates. So if you didn't opt in, if you didn't buy anything, you're not expecting anything, then you have to be really wary of these types of messages. And again, contact the company directly to verify um, information in a text message or email if you think that it may actually be legitimate. This is an example of an email. And so I've kind of the mail parcel scam email. So I've highlighted in red what makes this really suspicious. So the first red box we see important, check your package details. We talked about scammers always asking you to take immediate action so that you aren't thinking about what you're doing. And so this is written um, hoping that you will take action because it says important. You have to check your package details. The next suspicious thing is it's the uh, to line or the from line is indicating USA Postal Service, but the email address supporting US at us-trackingsupport.com, not a government domain, USA Postal Service. The photo, all of it looks suspect. Next, you'll see the next couple red boxes are for just weird spelling, weird grammar, weird punctuation. Although we'll talk a little bit about AI in the next coming slides, but um, they're getting a little bit more sophisticated. But if you see uh, grammatical errors or spelling errors, that is an immediate red flag. Next, it's uh, asking you to check this now, click this link. Um, It'll take you to a separate website that could potentially be monitoring you, trying to steal your information. Um, and then the final red box there, it got kind of cut off a little bit, but it is saying that if the delivery isn't scheduled within 48 hours, then we're not going to submit the request again. It's going to go immediately back to sender, and shipping and handling fees will not be returned. Again, this is kind of making it sound really detrimental if you don't immediately act really quickly. And so that's kind of goes back to the anatomy of a scam where they want you to act quickly. They're trying to scare you with certain consequences if you don't act. So we see a lot of scams come in for online marketplaces, things like Facebook Marketplace, back in the day, Craigslist, and some ways to protect yourself if you are either buying or selling using those would be to read site policies. Some of them may provide protections, not all of them do. Make sure that you're looking at the photos carefully, look at sellers' reviews. If you are selling, beware of immediate responses. Scammers have been known to set up bots to reply to postings because if they're the first ones to respond, they kind of get you on the hook. And we'll talk a little bit about what happens next, but they may try to get you to fall for a business Zelle business account Zelle scam. They may ask you to provide cash so that they can pay FedEx or someone to deliver an item. They may demand cash. They may ask to use Zelle after you've specified cash only. Make sure that you're meeting up in public during the day, police station or anywhere in public so that you're not alone with what could potentially be a scammer, and demanding cash in person can help cut down on scam replies that you receive. So if someone wants to use Zelle after you've specified cash, that can be a red flag. There is no such thing as a Zelle business account. Scammers will sometimes say, okay, I sent the money, and then they'll email you a scam email that appears like it's coming from Zelle saying you need to upgrade your account in order to receive funds since you're selling something. You're now a business account. It does not exist. The scam is that they want you to pay like some amount of money to upgrade your account, but whatever they're asking to be paid to upgrade your account is actually just being paid to a scammer. And they're not sending you anything for whatever item you're trying to sell. If anyone ever offers you to pay more than the price that you listed, it's probably a scammer. Sometimes scammers will offer more money because they'll say, if you can do Zelle, then I'll pay more, or I'll send a friend or family member, or if you can mail it, then I'll pay more. And again, it's just to make their scam seem enticing so that you'll fall victim to their scam. The next scam that we'll talk about is banking scams. Scammers can spoof bank telephone numbers to make it look like your bank is contacting you. So the way that we usually see this come in is through either an email or a text message, and the email will have a link that goes to a site that does appear to be your bank, but it's just a recreation. And it'll ask for login details or account information or passwords so that they can gain access to your actual bank account. Another one that we see comes in as a fake fraud alert text asking if you sent X amount of dollars. And then if you respond, they know that there's a live person that's responsive on the line. They may then call you with a spoofed number asking for account information or verification codes that are sent to you to try to gain access to your accounts. So in recent years, artificial intelligence has been a component of scams, and we're seeing more crypto scams as well. So generative AI can be used to create images, videos, recordings that can sound like you or any person. It can mimic your voice or appearance, and it can target your friends and family. Your friends and family can have kind of someone can use AI to make them appear like they're asking for something, or creating a video and then contacting you, demanding or asking for help of some kind. Or it can create images or videos of people that don't exist at all. There was a case recently where there was a crypto platform that was advertising on YouTube to try to lure in investors, but the CEO in this video trying to get people to invest was actually AI generated, and there was no CEO. It was just this single scammer, and they're able to make it appear like there was an entire legitimate business operating. Kind of as humans, we want to have a tendency to kind of like trust and believe in people that can be charming, can say the right things, that can be really reassuring. And so when someone can use AI to create this, idea of what everyone thinks of as like a good CEO, it can be extremely persuasive. And so we have to remain vigilant about, protecting ourselves, especially when it comes to investment things, and especially ones that are found online. Um, Promoting investments on social media, we have to uh, be very suspect of. There are so many platforms that claim to trade cryptocurrency, but they don't have trading activity, and it's just 100% a scam. Anyone asking you to recruit new investors, pyramid is a pyramid company, it's a scam. Anyone promising high returns with little risk, that's going to be a scam. And then sometimes when we see people fall victim to these kinds of scams, the scammers will say, okay, you need to send $100 to pay taxes and penalties to withdraw your funds early. They're just trying to separate you from more of your money. It's a scam. Don't ever pay more money to get money back that you've been defrauded out of. So we'll talk now about what happens if you do fall victim to a scam. First, file a complaint with BACP. If it was in Chicago, and you can do that by either calling 311, go to our website, or use our app. If it was outside of Chicago, you can file a complaint with the Illinois Attorney General. For text, phone, web-based scams where we're not able to tie them to the city of Chicago, the FTC regulates those, and complaints can be made to the FTC. And finally, consult with an attorney. They may have advice on being able to file a private lawsuit. Our 311 system has a few steps, so I'll go through with you guys just how exactly to file a 311 complaint that gets sent to the consumer fraud team. So when you go to our 311 website, you'll go to create service request. Once you click that, you'll hit service request. And then once after you go through this process, and you'll be given a service request number, and that's a way for you to track your complaint. So you can always come back to this screen and put in that service request number and see what the status is of your complaint. But to initially file it, you'll hit that service request button, and then you'll go to consumer and employee protection, and then consumers. And under consumer fraud complaint on the right here, we'll go to create request. So it'll ask for some initial information, what describes the nature of your complaint, when did it occur, how much did you pay, how did you pay. So you'll go through these steps to submit your complaint. And like I said, at the end, you'll get a complaint number. It'll say like SR 26 dash and then a bunch of numbers. And so you'll be able to track your complaint using that number. If you do fall victim to a scammer, you should know that there are what's called recovery scams. And this is when a third party contacts you telling you that you can get your money back if you pay them a certain price. Don't ever fall for that, please. Don't pay them. You'll just lose more money. BACP will never ask you for money to accept a complaint. No government agency is ever going to ask you for money to take a complaint against a business. Falling for one scam does increase the likelihood that you'll be contacted by more scammers. We always say don't answer unsolicited calls. They can leave a message and you can decide whether or not to return a call. But when you pick up the phone, you're sharing information that there is a live person on the line. And in the beginning, we talked about, the longer that a scammer can get you on the phone to see you face to face, the more opportunity they have to persuade you. The fact that you have this active phone number is valuable information for scammers. And so it's information that can be sold. So if you fall victim to, an IRS scam, you may be contacted for a different, a crypto scam, or your contact information can be sold to other scammers so that a different scammer can try to take advantage of you. If you paid by a card, gift card, wire transfer, money transfer app, you can try to get your money back. Tell them that a scam or fraud was involved and ask them to reverse the payment. Sometimes if you're able to act really quickly in contacting however you paid, it increases the likelihood that they may be able to get something back to you. If you gave out personal information, your social security number, etc., you can go to identitytheft.gov to create a recovery plan. Make sure that you change your passwords and be sure not to reuse passwords. So some takeaways to remember would be to pay by credit card if possible. It's a traceable payment, and if something goes wrong, there's always the opportunity to submit a chargeback. Make sure that you are reviewing your credit card and bank statements to make sure that you've approved all the charges for transactions between you and another person, like when using Facebook Marketplace or something along those lines. Cash only is best. Things like Zelle and Venmo are intended to be used between people that know each other. So if you are buying or selling something online with someone that you don't know, cash is best. Ignore all unsolicited calls, texts, emails, and other messages. It's really the best way to avoid basically telling a scammer, hey, I'm a live person over here, so that you can avoid more calls, texts, emails, etc. in the future. Exciting too good to be true offers usually are too good to be true. That's preying on you being excited and giving an enticing offer, asking you to act quickly. Next, don't ever send money to get money. Don't pay people in gift cards. Anyone asking to be paid in a gift card is a scammer. And then be aware of high pressure tactics that ask you to act quickly. And just to add on there and make sure that when you are transacting with a business, just do your research, try to get referrals from friends, family, neighbors, and make sure that they are properly licensed, that they have insurance, that their corporation is set up, and use the resources that BACP has. And that'll do it for me. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Um, I think it's easiest maybe if people put them in the chat box. We'll give everyone a minute here. Seeing some thank yous. Thank you for attending. I appreciate it. If the numbers from the texts are fake and the email addresses are fake, how could someone even report them? Email addresses, I don't know that we see those being spoofed quite as frequently or at all. The email addresses tend to just look wonky. Like it'll, for example, if there is like um, they can use like a capital I instead of an L to make it look like it's coming from a certain, certain little characters will be changed that make it look legitimate. BACP tends not to be able to handle these complaints because they can't be necessarily tied to the city of Chicago. FTC probably has more information on how they're able to get down to who is behind spoofing texts, calls, emails. Um, so for things that are web-based like that, it is probably best to file an FTC complaint. I'm sure that they have access to certain resources that can help them get to the bottom of that. BACP uses law enforcement databases and portals as well that we have access to. Okay, seeing, is there a public list that is available for known scammers? So BACP has a list of businesses that were found liable of consumer fraud within the last 3 years. And so that's anybody that pled liable or was found liable after a hearing. And it is in that link that I showed at the beginning. Where'd it go? So if you're, let's see if I can. Put it in a separate one. Okay, you should see the link on your screen. Again, the PowerPoint will be available. The entire video will be available. But yes, and this is within the last 3 years. As long as the city of Chicago has prosecuted them, they'll be on the list. And you're welcome. Not seeing any other questions coming in. So I just want to thank everyone again. Really appreciate you coming. Please spread the knowledge, tell your family and friends. Things are definitely getting more sophisticated with AI. So just, be on guard and be protective of your personal information, especially. Thank you, everyone, and I hope that you have a great day.